This is IsAware, powered by Intersoft Associates. IsAware is your connection to exploring the systems and software that power businesses like yours with expert insight, experience, and advice.
Welcome back to IsAware. I'm Chris Mitliff, and I'm joined by Hai Goldstoff and Abe Unger from Intersoft Associates. And guys, we were talking last week, and Abe, you said something that kind of struck me around the dangers of DIY migration. And Hai, one of the things that I love that you continually come back to in our conversations is, look, business leaders and the people who benefit from the databases, the custom software, the technology, they shouldn't need to be technologists to benefit from this stuff. So I don't want to get so nerdy about the idea of DIY migration that we lose sort of touch on that. So Hai, I think I'll start with you. What do we mean when we're talking about do-it-yourself migration? And what is the sort of business scenario where that comes up that I might be dealing with or facing it?
When I think of DIY, it runs the whole gamut from a technology space. It's developing a capability using a software tool, be it Excel, which people have used, to keep track of data. I know that, my son used it for his bar mitzvah gifts, for example. Mm-hmm. Keep track of, who gave what. An access database for something that's, perhaps a bit more, you want to have forms and have screens that are easy to enter data rather than entering data in an Excel-like grid in Access. And it's just, so that way someone else might be able to use it. And lastly, it's using Microsoft Power Apps. If you kind of look at the levels of what some of these DIY tools are, and there are people that, have learned in college or whatever, some of the development tools like Visual Basic, whatever else they might be, and have started developing some software, some capability to let that's generally good for them and maybe a few other people, but a very, very small work group. And that same kind of goes for people that are migrating to the cloud. They know a little bit of the tools. They might know Squarespace. They might know Wix. You're going to put an Excel spreadsheet in the cloud, Google Sheets currently. So, that's kind of what I think of first. Not to say there aren't people who've done a great job with DIY. For the most part, our experience has been a hackerish type endeavor.
Abe, Hai does a great job of almost walking us through sort of these. You start here and you inevitably will mature into this. We start with Excel, we maybe move into Access, then we maybe move into Power Apps and things like this. I think for me, which is great, that's great. It empowers people. People learn a lot, as you and I have talked about. For small projects, that's awesome. For single user projects, it can be great. I think a problem comes when something that worked really well when there was just one of me running my little business doesn't work great when there's 3 of us or 5 of us or 15 of us, yet we are slow to make those upgrades. Or when we do start to make that upgrade, we again take on this sort of let me escalate to the next thing. And we learn kind of the next thing, but I'm not a professional with that stuff. I'm just a person who wanted to get a job done. Where does the friction come from your perspective? When is it starting to be kind of a losing battle? Or when should I, as a business leader, or even a person who, is technologically minded in this stuff, but it's for me to get the best out of this, I got to get out of my own head with this stuff.
Well, it is the kind of thing where if you're using your DIY solution and whatever it is that you may be using, whether it is Access or Excel, but as soon as you see that it's not working and you start thinking about what is the next step, what should I do? Should I go from the Excel to the Access? At that point is where you should start thinking about scale and growing. If you're already in the point where you're moving out of that Excel spreadsheet, you see that that's not working for you, don't just jump to the next easiest solution. Talk to somebody. Access may be the better solution because you may be only a shop where you've got 1 or 2 people who are using the system and they're not using it at the same time, and you can manage it in an Access world. But even then, have the conversation, start talking about it, because just you're thinking of access because you want to get the job done. You want to put a little Band-Aid on something, but the last thing you want to do is hemorrhage. So a little Band-Aid is not really going to help you much. So you really want to talk to someone who's going to tell you, okay, yes, this is where you should go. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. Here's the limitations of the technology you're about to choose are, and here's what's going to happen in 6 months, 1 year, whatever that is down the line, so you can sort of gear yourself up towards that. So even if you do move up to an access solution as a temporary solution, you know that that is a temporary solution, and you're going to do something else to maintain that in the future.
Well, but what I did, it's not a migration in terms of, I mean, people certainly do it, but it's not, someone will choose Excel to solve a problem. Someone will choose Access to solve a problem. Somebody else may choose Power Apps to solve a problem. And yes, there might be a natural migration to that, which is, in the course of doing things. But to kind of answer your question, the CEO or the senior manager certainly doesn't have to be a technologist. They just need to know when they're making too many compromises on capabilities, where they can't get things done. They can't have more than 2 people using the system. Whenever they start making compromises, from perfection, it's time to think about it. You may only be able to afford what you have, and the business case, might not be there to do it correctly. But that's when you start thinking about it. When am I making compromises? What are the capabilities I can't get? In today's world, there is really no limit or no reasonable limit on what you can get done. Time and money are two factors there, but there really is no limit. So that's something when you should start saying, is there a better way?
Hi, you raised 2 super crucial points, I think, which is time and money. And I think a lot of business leaders are almost looking for the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to some solution. Or they're listening to their IT person or some engaged person in the office who says, oh, well, that shouldn't be hard. I can do that. Or I got a buddy who can do that, or whatever. And obviously, it's a broad brush. We're all looking for professional solutions. But too often, if we don't understand it, we business leaders, we delegate it to somebody who we think might. But that person might be coming from, all I know is access. So therefore, it's an access problem or whatever. What guidance do you have for us, Hai, as business leaders, for even how to approach this? Do I need to call a custom outfit every time I want to do something? Or should I be listening to the person who's really interested in Power Apps? Or like, when should my own kind of radar be going off that clearly we need a change, but I'm not sure what to do with that knowledge that we need a change?
First case is, what do you think the creating what you perceive to be perfection, the capabilities you'd like to have? What's the business case there? What is the impact on savings that you can have, be they hard or soft dollars, additional opportunities you can have? So what's the business case? If the business case is minimal, then you really can't afford going the full Monty, so to speak. But if there is a strong business case, then you have to look for it, and there are going to be times where you say no. I was at a meeting with a peer advisor group that I'm in, and it was my first meeting with that particular, and my first meeting actually. And one of the people there said that he wants to move his system from Access to SQL, which is a database manager. And I said, we do that all the time. I'll do it for nothing. Okay. Then when I go to meet him a few months later, he said he had somebody else in, and they said, this will cost me $200,000. So I had this big gulp, sounds excessive. What did I get myself into? But anyway, as I started going into what he did and how he operated and everything else, I came, and the way he particularly operated, where there was no need for that data to be public, there was no need for more than one person at a time to do it. Every engagement is different, so he needs the ability to go in there and modify the database. And he's one of these DIY guys. And I said, not only will there be no impact, no positive impact from SQL, there'll be a negative impact because you won't have the flexibility you have today. So you bring someone in. He thought that it would make him more efficient. And I threw away $200,000. And I told him that, no, it'll make you less efficient. And for that, I got a great dinner at Smith and Walensky. But you have to, when you as a manager, you have a perception of what the business case is. And if the business case is significant, bring in a professional to do it right. You can also evaluate what that professional says if you're a good manager. And I don't want to say oftentimes, but there are times where we say, no, it doesn't make sense to do.
It's a great example, Hai, of that value of strategy, of kind of this consultancy mindset. Just get somebody who knows this stuff and talk it through with them. Abe, let's say that I'm, this kind of migration is, I know it's necessary, or I've kind of committed to it. I know that there's a lot of tools out there. Talk me through, I don't know, what are some of the words I might hear in this? What are some of the platforms or wizards or migration software tools that might be coming up and are popular? And do you have any that you think, this one is pretty reliable, this one you really got to watch out? And my second question is, what dangers are there in using some of those tools? I'm thinking things like, and then you deleted a row without knowing it, and you're in a world of hurt. Those are things that I might not know because I'm thinking if I just push the right buttons, this software will do it for me. Am I thinking the wrong ways about some of these things?
So there are a lot of tools out there, and there are different tools, some that we've even used ourselves when we were doing a migration. There's a nice wizard that, to take access to SQL as an example I just brought up. There's a nice tool that, Access can use to actually update your data, push the data into SQL, merge everything in, create the structures for you. And now you have a SQL database and link all your tables and do all that for you. And there's a wizard that'll do that for you. The issue there is, first of all, if you really don't know what you're doing, you can make a mistake and do things wrong or wipe away some data by accidentally choosing an option that says, delete everything first, depending on what exactly it is that you're trying to do. But the other thing that the wizard can't help you with is, what if your structures are bad? What if your whole data structure or the data that you have is not in a format that's conducive to growth? The wizard's not going to tell you that. The wizard's just going to take you from A and move you to B and not really analyze what's going on. And that's where you have those dangers. So yeah, there's a tool that'll do it. Maybe there's a tool that'll help you get from A to B. But if A is bad, now B is just new and bad. So you haven't really done anything, just you've gotten to B.
That is a great point. That's a great point. Hi.
That also brings up something that we actually went over today. We have a client that has a DIY system written in Access, and it's for portfolio management. Small trading operation. They've gotten much bigger, and they want to, they want to get to the 20th century. But anyway, and if they have a particular stock, a particular investment that they've traded numerous times, all of the metadata about that particular stock, the ticker symbol, the name, and whatever else there exists in every record in the trading history, in every record, as opposed to having a scalable solution where you have a record for that stock and it points to all the others. So if you want to change the name, you change it here and it gets reflected everywhere else. Just a proper, scalable structure. And this is where, people look at what they might do on an index card or in an Excel spreadsheet with not knowing all the, the functions like the lookup, whatever else it might be. So they do that. Okay, if I'm going to get a list of, all the trades on the stock, I need all these fields in the record. And that just creates data anarchy. So they don't know how to use, even if the tools are good, they don't know how to use the tools. And then there are people who know how to use the tools, but know that they've reached their limit. So, one of the people you talked about before, we have somebody who had a DIY or someone who had a, computer information sciences background, which is more management. It's, rather than doing, and they built a fairly nice, she built a fairly nice system in Access. And then, but it didn't go anywhere. Then they had someone else come in and start managing it. They changed her responsibilities. They had someone else come in and start doing it, and it was bad before. It got worse because they didn't know the structure. The structure was not good, and you had the same data item in various fields all over the place. So on one screen, the field for, I'll just use the other example, for ticker symbol might be in this part of the data. On another screen, it might be in that part of the data. And now you've got multiple versions of the truth. And we spoke with them a number of years ago where they decided not to move forward. Now they can't move forward fast enough. So.
And isn't that sometimes the way you sort of drag your feet on something, or you think this must be a better way to do it, and you ended up wasting years or hours in a more microcosm.
Wasting opportunities. Wasting opportunities because there are so many opportunities that they missed in terms of scaling, in terms of being able to grow faster without hiring additional staff. And there are those people who know it. I'm sorry, I'm taking up most of this. We have a client who is a retired policeman who wrote a little system using Lotus Approach. And what was the back end for that, Abe? You remember?
It was all Lotus Approach. The whole thing was
Lotus Approach. A nice system to manage his business. And he did very, very well. But he realized, he didn't want to be doing this anymore. Yeah. He knew it was the wrong way to do it. I mean, he was really enlightened. And he said, you guys, he knew the work we had done from actually a competitor of his. And, he brought us in, and now he's able to work on the higher value stuff. The system works. It works all the time. And it's allowed him to grow without, adding staff. And the staff that was doing, silly work is doing more high value work. And here the CEO is certainly doing a lot more high value work because he doesn't sit there and write code every so often. He can work more on strategy and dealing with people he does. So his work becomes that much more high value.
Which is a great illustration of what happens so often in these processes is you end up doing this low value, really time consuming, thought consuming, money consuming kind of stuff that doesn't get you anywhere. And again, I love your illustration, Abe. They didn't want to move forward. Now they can't move forward fast enough. If you get it right the first time, it sure does save you a lot of hassle down the road.
Right. It's like the old, it's like the Fram filter commercial. You can pay me now or pay me later.
Yeah.
But once you see that there are compromises and you've got to make compromises and you can't get what you want and you feel you can afford it, you need that. If I'm making compromises in my, 20-year-old car, I can't use it today because it's too cold. I can't start the car today because the battery's too low. I make compromises in my daily life, and I can afford a much better car. And I can afford a new car. That's a no-brainer. I would buy that new car in a heartbeat if I could afford it. If it's not taken to a train, not that important.
Right. Hi, Goldstoff and Abe Unger. Some really great illustrations on the value of rethinking this DIY approach. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate this sort of tactical, practical approach that says, look, yeah, you can do it. You can roll your own. Understand what might be involved in that before you start doing it. Don't get down that road and realize, holy smokes, we're in way deeper than we thought we could have been. And all it takes is a conversation to straighten that out.
And you also have to fight inertia sometimes.
That's a big one. And we talk about that a lot, fighting inertia. Say another word or two on that, Hi.
Well, we're doing it this way. We've done it this way forever. It's okay. And nowadays, okay and good enough are not okay and good enough. It's a highly competitive world out there. And you can get the right person to build it for you. And you've got the knowledge that can be transferred into some software and processes, you can grow dramatically.
Thanks, guys. Great conversation. Really enjoyed this one. Looking forward to our next time.
Take care. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for IsAware, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. IsAware is powered by Intersoft Associates, who believes the more you know about your IT, the better. Visit us at intersoftassociates.com and schedule your free consultation to talk about how custom software can help your business.